Hello.
What is going on, dude? How you doing?
I'm okay.
That's good, dude. It's a good day to be. I guess it's a good day to not be in China. Apparently, there's like 50,000 coronavirus cases.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to get the accurate information.
Yeah.
One strand of information says, well, it's just the same death rate as normal flu.
Yeah.
Which hopefully I'm healthy enough and people I know are healthy enough to withstand it. The other is that it's more infectious, so a lot more people get it, so therefore a lot more people numerically die from it.
Yeah.
That's the sort of message that we're getting, well, I'm getting over here, whether it's true or not.
Yeah. It's hard to buy into because it seems like every year there's an end of the world virus. Every year there's a scare that this is the one, but
yeah,
I'm not
it is.
concerned.
I mean, what worries me from obviously it's a worry anyway, but from personal perspective is travelling on aeroplanes.
Yeah.
And to football matches.
Yeah.
You're sort of thinking,
Yeah. It's
these guys, but still.
Yeah, it's
we will see soon enough.
Yeah. Well, fortunately for psychedelics, like you and I talked about, it's all just a ride. So whatever happens, happens.
I mean,
happens.
That's what I suggested as a topic because I've had lots of psychedelics, and as you, I've realised that I've been able to take a different perspective because of that. But I haven't got any answers. People say, well, tell me about reality. Well, I can't do that. But what I can do, and what I thought might be useful, is when I've been tripping on not all psychedelics, some don't lend themselves to this, but some do. LSD does, for instance, is contemplation whilst under the influence, and exploration of thoughts, reading, watching videos of questions relating to consciousness and reality and life.
Yeah.
And I think it's, that's something I do, but it doesn't mean because I've done a lot of that, I'm capable of putting everything together in a single theory. So, well, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's unanswerable.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people more intelligent than myself say that.
Yeah.
But I thought what I could do is in the book. By the way, for anyone's not seen the other videos, I've Dominic Milton Trott. I wrote the Drug User's Bible. In the book, I've got a section at the end on culture and society and related to drugs. And I've got section 4.6.2 is food for the psychedelic mind. What that attempts to do is give people who want to explore this area and these questions just some headlines, if you like, to think, have you seen this? Have you thought about this? Here's somewhere to look. Maybe you should read that. Maybe you should watch that video. Have you heard of this guy? Because I've over many, many years, I sort of found these as avenues of exploration, which I took. So I'm not going to put forward any sort of will breaking proposition. But all I'm going to do is give a number of suggestions on areas that people listening to this who take psychedelics or even don't can actually explore for themselves.
Okay.
And start to ask the questions I've asked and find answers for themselves.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The first one, this was before I had any psychedelics, the first thing that ever made me think things aren't actually as they appear to be was Einstein's theory of relativity.
Okay.
And it wasn't a mathematical quest and a sort of intellectual question at the time. It was when I was young teens, early 20s. So practical questions and issues like if you travel on a spacecraft, if I travelled on a spacecraft and approached the speed of light, went out there somewhere, and then turned around and came back at close to the speed of light, what would have been a few minutes for me would have been many years for the people left behind. Now that's actually a scientific fact.
Yeah.
Theory of relativity. And as soon as I heard that story and similar stories, it suddenly hit me that, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
How can that
be possible?
How can, when I live and I walk around and I talk and I think and I eat and I drink and, this isn't how it appears. That's basically saying that time isn't linear.
Yeah.
And time isn't as necessarily something that I'm experiencing second to second. It's not. It's sort of blowing all that away.
Yeah. It's
this was all pre drugs, pre psychedelics, and I thought that was sort of an itch, sort of splintering in my mind, as Morpheus said in The Matrix.
Yeah.
And it's there, and it's sort of, something wrong. If I think about it, it's sort of, it's a question I need to answer to validate everything else. Because if time doesn't work how I think it does, then what else does?
Yeah.
What else doesn't? What is? It's the first question. That was the first whammy. It was, and I carried that with me, and I didn't think anything else of it, and it just kept coming to me every now and again. And never did resolve that question, but I carried on with it. The next sort of event on the horizon was quantum physics, and this was post my first LSD trip. I mean, my first LSD trip was a long time ago, and I just remember everything was it's the dollhouse effect. It's called sort of an idyllic representation of itself. I'd walk the streets and the houses were perfect, and the sky was sort of not. It was like above me there, and I could almost touch it.
Yeah.
So that sort of thought, well, okay. And then so that started to open up this possibility that we both discussed about. What's real? Am I on a train and can I get off it?
Yeah.
Which is that's your metaphor, which I think is a great metaphor, that way. A really good metaphor. One of the best I've heard.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I'm flattered.
So, quantum physics, having had the LSD, nothing, it wasn't earth-shattering because I didn't know very much, but it was enough to sort of make me sort of wonder a little bit. Until quantum physics came along, I watched a documentary, I think it was on the BBC, and it was called "What the Bleep Do We Know?" And I thought, okay, so I watched it. It basically was asking questions about, and you can get it on the DVD, and it's really worthwhile people getting hold of that. It might have been Channel 4, I don't know, but it was on British television. But within that, they had scattered in different parts, 3 little cartoons lasting 2 or 3 minutes each. One was 5 minutes length, called Dr. Quantum. And the first one was a sort of, I think it was a preparation to get you to think out your box and stop being so sort of static in your perspective. And it was this. This Dr. Quantum was a cartoon character like a wizard with a beard, and he'd fly into this. So this is Flatland. It's a 2D world.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've seen something. I think I've seen Carl Sagan's take on that. The Flatlanders, 3D, 4D. Yeah.
Well, it's a 2D world. There's no life form buzzing around, and they say, "Well, these guys don't know about 3D, so I'll put my finger in the middle of it." Yeah. And they're all running around screaming. And he gets one of these little characters and he says, "Hello." Yeah. And of course he's terrified, thinking, where are you? Well, I say, "Well, I'm from a different dimension." And of course you get it's reacted as a 3D entity like us would react. What do you mean another direction? Dimension. So and then he says, "Well, I can see what's in your safe at home, and you've got this, and this." So, and then he pulls this little entity out, and he goes, "Oh, wow!" So it's basically suddenly it's expanded its its consciousness, its perspective, its perception, everything, and a bit like it to just taking a psychedelic.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Seeing its 2D world, as it was. It's not the world. It's just a narrow representation of through its own sensory organs. So that's the first one. I think that's just preparatory. The second one is the double slit experiment, which I'm sure you've heard of that.
Yeah.
For people who haven't, that's fundamental to quantum physics. And basically it shows that they found a single electron through two slits and seeing what the pattern on a board behind turns out to be. And if you sort of sat there watching these electrons fire and you get two slits on this board behind, which you'd expect, which is shooting solid matter through things. If you're not looking, if nobody's sort of witnessing this and measuring it, then it behaves as though the representation on the board behind, as though it's water, it's fluid, it's sort of waves that are going through these two slits.
Yeah.
So the question is, well, what the hell is going on here? If we're not looking at this or we're not observing it, how come it's behaving like a sort of wave?
Yeah.
But if we're looking at it, this is the smallest unit of matter, an electron. If we're looking at it, it's like behaving like we'd expect, like a ball bearing.
Yeah.
Spinning that round as an explanation, what's basically happening is it behaves like matter. It collapses from a wave function to matter because it's been observed by a conscious entity.
Yes.
So the mind, if you like, is creating the matter.
It's creating what it perceives. It's creating its reality.
It's creating reality.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's basically how.
So it's extrapolated to
created,
everything. Yeah.
Without consciousness, without conscious observation or measurement, it doesn't exist. It's only potential.
Yeah. It's like I'm in this room right now. I'm not in my bathroom. Does my bathroom exist?
Yeah. That's the sort of question.
I think it's there, but it's only because I can go check on it. Right now, is it a probability? And that's it? Is it just an infinite cloud of yes and no? Schrodinger's bathroom. It's
exactly right. I mean, if Schrodinger's cat is what that is, in case nobody's aware of it. But what that does is far more eloquently than I can do without the graphics. It explains all that and sort of presents it as what it is, which is proven science.
Mm-hmm.
And it's if you don't know anything about this, you never encountered it. As a viewer of this video, you must go and have a look at that.
Yeah.
Dr. Quantum double slit experiment. Watch that or something similar to understand, because that is so fundamental to understanding or having a starting place to actually understand reality or consciousness or anything that's going on around you. So that was the second cartoon. It's documentary. And the third one was entanglement.
Electron entanglement.
Yeah, if you take
instantaneous,
an electron that's been in contact with another one and put it on the other side of billion light years away, and you do something to one, it will affect the other one instantaneously, faster than the speed of light.
Instantaneous.
So they're still connected.
Instantaneous. No time. Yeah, it's instantaneous.
So
no speed. It's
basically, again, scientifically, everything is connected to everything else.
Yes.
Via a dimension or a means that we don't perceive or understand.
Yeah, and it's what the things you're naming are some of the things that were some of the things that I experienced too in my years leading up to psychedelics. It was the double slit experiment was one of them. The other one was just it seemed that no matter how far we zoomed in, we never got to the bottom. We got to the atom, then we got to the proton, the neutron, and the electron, and then we got to the quarks and the gluons, and then we got down to Planck space. And then you zoom out, it seems the universe goes on forever. And that was one of those two things. It seems that we can't see the biggest thing, we can't see the smallest thing. And it seems that, we do create reality with our minds. And then the last one I thought of, the age-old one, it was, well, what was before the Big Bang? Like, what is nothing? What is after everything? And I think it's very interesting, and you're bringing up an important point, because this was all before I did psychedelics, and these aren't just some hippies sitting around, hey man, what if you no, it's like you have these brilliant scientists like, nope, that's what it is. It's really
these are experiments that have been conducted, and they work, and it is
reality is stranger than fiction.
And again, what those three cartoons do, in layman's terms, simple to understand. I understood them very easily, and think anybody could. Is basically, for me, they're built on the Einstein theory of times and linear, even though that's how we're experiencing it. Suddenly, it opens up the possibility of, well, what is, if reality is formed by active observation, if every atom in my body is connected to every other atom in the entire world, and not just because I can't perceive it, but it is. What else? So that, if as I said, food for psychedelic mind, that's what this section's about. This is something as a sort of must sort of line of inquiry that anyone who's interested in this, in my opinion, should be looking at. That's why I've got it as number 3 on my sort of list here of foods to explore, to feed to your mind when tripping or subsequent to a trip. By the way, on these things, have you heard of the E8 crystal?
No, I haven't.
I think it's quite new, and I'll just throw this in because I don't know much about it.
It's physics.
It's about that the 8th dimension can be projected down to the 4th dimension and into 3, which is our sort of construct, and everything can be shown through this to be built on tetrahedron building block. Tetrahedron 3, the collateral triangles. There's the stuff about the golden ratio in there, but it links into this, and the Planck length is the minimal and sort of pixelated worlds. So just throwing that phrase in for anybody who actually does listen to this and want to follow this line of inquiry, that's something to actually investigate. There are a couple of videos I've found on it as well. But as I said, this is quantum physics, and it's definitely something that qualifies as food for the psychedelic mind.
Absolutely.
So I've covered Einstein, and I've covered quantum physics, and I've given 3 sort of really elementary sort of starting points that should actually start your sort of your brain firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like psychedelics sprinkled these into reality. It's almost leaving it's like if you just started finding random puzzle pieces in your house, maybe you found one a day, you might start collecting them after a while. And after a couple of years of, tossing them all in a box, you might start to look at it and be like, I wonder if I can, and it would, let's say it showed a puzzle, and eventually it showed a map, and it turns out your house has like an attic or a basement that you didn't know was there, right? But because you didn't know it was there was no way for you to find it. So instead, it just leaves these little breadcrumbs. That's kind of what all this stuff is like. It's like, you can only know what psychedelics are once you've done them. They cannot be explained. At least not for you and I. We can't. So it's almost like these facts: electron entanglement, double slit experiment, theory of relativity, 3D, 4D, 8D. It's almost like reality is leaving these little like fishing lines into our reality, and eventually you bite onto one of them, and you're like, "What is this?" And it pulls you to another one. It pulls you to another one. And then you finally take mushrooms or LSD, and then you jump into the whole. It's like taking a Flatlander.
For me, sort of psychedelics made these. I was aware of some of these things before I started taking psychedelics, but psychedelics made these more important because what I found psychedelics did for me was they made me more. The bigger questions became more important to me.
Yeah, they're not just this thing out in the
questions
periphery.
about what am I?
Yeah.
Okay, I can say, well, this is what you are, but more than that, what am I?
Yeah.
What am I?
Yeah.
And when you live in your life in a sort of linear, your day-to-day narrative, you don't stop to think about this. And when I was sort of starting to realise that, when I get to my deathbed, if I'm not careful, I've never even questioned and explored what I actually have been.
Yeah.
And I'm dead now.
Yeah, it's just like, hope you had fun, the end. It's, you want to... Yeah, it's
you've got to get off that ride. I mean, it's your train again. You've got to get off that train. And for me, it was, once I started taking psychedelics, more and more I thought like that. That, and in fact, it tells me kind of thing again that, if you've never had psychedelics, you've not done,
you haven't done it.
Die without ever having had sex.
Yeah.
It's one of the two most important things you can do in life. And I agree with that. Because once I had them, I started more and more started sort of realising that, okay, well, I could live this sort of narrative and this story and then die, but to do that and not start to look at the story itself from outside is that for me is a complete waste.
It's terrible.
The psychedelics made that more obvious. And it made these different bits of elements of exploration more important than they were. Mm-hmm. Because if you live your life down here doing your day-to-day stuff,
and you just stay on that.
You don't lift your head up, and and once I lifted my head up, these things became more important because there were potential routes to solve these fundamental questions that I had spinning in my mind about what is going on and who am I and why am I and what is it and the sort of questions that and once I started asking them the questions, I'm sort of in a place mentally where I'm thinking, why the hell isn't everybody asking these questions all the time?
That's the shit that happens. Is like, it's I think Joe Rogan said it. He was like, it's like you do psychedelics and you truly realize that your entire life has been spent on this little rock floating in the middle of infinity, and it never comes up. He's like, why is that not on the news 24 hours a day? Another day, good morning world. Here we all are on a fucking rock in the middle of infinity. No one knows how we got here. There's a big nuclear explosion in the sky. What the hell is going on? But it's one of the things that once you start to look at it, you're like, not only can you not stop thinking about it, you're like, how does everyone else... You're like, is no one else seeing this? It'd be like if a dragon flew overhead. You'd be like, is no one else looking at the fucking dragon? Like,
No, because they're looking down. They're busy.
Yeah.
They're busy people.
Yeah.
Too busy, man.
Yeah, it's like, I got shit to do. I got the next thing to do. I got that. But you're like, there's a fucking dragon, It's... And
this isn't being lazy. It's not the opposite of busy. It's actually using your time more... For greater reward, because I get far more reward from actually thinking and trying to work this out.
Well, and not only
parts of it out that I was working on something. Yeah, that doesn't feel productive. I don't.
And not only
on the lack of wanting to put effort in, because believe me, it's an effort.
Yeah, it's
actually. Okay, well, I'm going to try and understand this a bit more. It's hard.
It's a journey. It's a journey.
But it's fun because it's a journey.
And it's. I was going to say what I found is, and it's not just, it's not just that you leave this world down here. It makes this world down here a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, it's just a train. You're like, oh, okay. So that you can go back to your little busy, like every day I work out, every day I build my podcast. Like ultimately, I know that this is all just a ride, and I'm here for a little bit, and I'm inhabiting this body, and this is maybe I've lived 100 trillion different lives, but it doesn't mean that I like reject this. I come back down and come back down from meditation, and it's like the podcast, instead of like here's this thing I gotta do, it's really important. Instead, it's like here's this fun thing I'm playing podcast. I'm playing podcast builder. You know, it's like a video game. I'm finding new guests. How many subscribers can I get? Ooh, where can I put the link? I'm doing the same exact thing as I was doing before, but now I'm playing a game instead of this super, oh my God, I can't mess it up. It's, you know, it's a game.
Yeah. It is, and it's, you know, I think with playing, you know, what to actually get to the point where you enjoy reality from in a different way. I mean, I'm not saying that people who never take a psychedelic can never get outside the perspective and the sort of linear narrative that they're actually existing through. They don't have fun. They do, but I think it's a different type of enjoyment once you actually take a different perspective and come back into it, and you don't enjoy it in the same way you did previously. Okay, well, that's quantum physics. I think that's a really good place to start. Although I've got that as number 3 as a food. You know, that's a good building block to a good area to explore.
Yeah.
If you want to do this and endeavour to try and understand more and explore more of what reality actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Now the first two that I've got 2 names here, and the one is the one we've mentioned loads of times, is Terence McKenna, because he's a really good place to actually start to actually think outside the box.
Before we go any further, I have a friend named McKenna. She's a girl.
You told me last time.
She loves Terence McKenna, and she loves whenever I do an episode, I send it to her on Instagram, and she loves it. She listens to him. She loves you. And I told her last time I was going to have you give her a shout out, but I forgot. And so and I promised her. So this time you gotta give a shout out. You gotta, as the author of the Drug User's Bible, you gotta say hi, McKenna.
McKenna. Is that first name?
Yeah, her first name's McKenna.
That's first name, McKenna. Hello, McKenna.
Hello.
It's Dominic Milton Trott.
Yeah.
She is an official shout out.
Yeah.
The author of the Drug User's Bible. I hope this podcast is okay for you.
Yeah.
It's not too rambly.
Yeah. Oh no, she'll love it. She loves Terence McKenna. I remember I asked her, I was like, "Have you ever done LSD?" And she was like, "Really? My name's McKenna, and I love Terence McKenna, and you're asking me if I've done." She's like, "What a stupid question." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." But yeah, okay. So let's get back to it.
Yeah, name check him, because if you're exploring this area and you want to ask fundamental questions and areas to investigate, Terence McKenna is definitely one of them. And you know, he's done things like the stoned ape theory. I won't go into all these, but these are just labels for you to go and think. I Ching is another one.
Yeah,
we've got that. It's a Chinese divinatory system. It's a book, and there's even a tiny. Well, there's
I Ching. Yeah.
And look at the size of that; it's tiny. But I've got a proper size one.
Yeah.
Which I actually got it in China. I went to the shop and I got an I Chang, and they didn't understand what the hell I was talking about for ages, and all the stuff came from there. Eventually they got me, and lo and behold, they had it in English as well. So I got that when I was there. So he does a podcasting type interview with the guy. His name escapes me. That's a really, really interesting, because it explains how the East actually invested itself in exploring time, whereas the West went for energy.
Okay.
And with the Industrial Revolution, they were sort of studying and how what was it, the 16th century, this 64 hexagram. I think it's difficult. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it to explain it. Like Terence McKenna, and I'm just making an idiot of myself by trying. So go and listen to Terence McKenna talking about it. He's I-C-H-I-N-G, I Ching.
And his thing was time wave zero, right? That's
another one. The time wave zero. Yeah. But there's a whole range of theories and propositions that he presents with unparalleled eloquence, which are really, really entertaining. So that is definitely, you could spend a long time doing that.
Yeah.
But definitely an area to to sort of investigate when or after you've tripped, or whilst you're tripping, or when you're just in the sort of psychedelic arena. Another guy, Robert Anton Wilson, and I found him and the specific area of his work that I'm going to refer to is the 8th circuit model, which was originally Timothy Leary's model, and he actually sort of slightly reinterpreted parts of that. But there's a again on YouTube there's a documentary, a video. It's not a video, it's an audio where he goes through each of the different levels. I mean, people are saying, what's he talking about, the 8th circuit model? And we discussed this briefly last time. What this theory, and it's more than a theory, because I think a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists agree with at least some of the levels, is that consciousness develops from the level you're born at, which is the I've actually got them. I'll read them out. Here you go. Found it first of all, which is a miracle. The oral biosurvival circuit.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
I'll carry on talking to you folks. Stay with me. I won't read it because I hate people reading books to me, so I won't do it to you. The oral biosurvival circuit is when a baby's born. It's pre-programmed, if you like. That's a terrible word. That's not the right word at all. But and it's suck anything, looking for nutrition, and it's looking for a mother figure. And this is a level of consciousness that it's born with. It decides. He comes with birth with some jeep accidentally ran down a giraffe minutes after it had given birth to a baby giraffe, which is a calf. Forgive me if I don't know what a baby giraffe is called, I'll assume it's a calf. And immediately it tries to treat the jeep as its mother figure. So this is a sort of level of consciousness that is there. Second level is, as Anton Wilson describes, the anal territorial circuit, where you start to measure where you are in the hierarchy and what's mine. And then there's a third level, the semantic time. It goes on up the sort of a triangular level, if you like, where people, as they sort of grow, become more conscious of what's around them. The time-binding circuit, I think, is where they can sort of awareness of time that's passed and can plan forward. And there's different levels of consciousness. And particularly interesting from my perspective, as drugs a lot.
Yeah.
Is that he associates. This could be embarrassing. He associates a drug with each level of consciousness. So at the beginning, there's just opioids and sedatives at levels 1 and 2. And a lower level is alcohol. If people drink, they get very aggressive and territorial. I'm going to go. You know what drugs can be like. Not all of them, badly.
Yeah, caveman kind of.
Yeah. And then at level 3, you've got stimulants, which sort of stimulate. People can bankers start seeing cocaine for analysis and calculation. So that's good at that level of that drug. Then the socio-sexual circuit is number 4. Hormones, entactogens, ecstasy are useful for enhancing that particular level of consciousness. Now we get on to 5, which is the sort of level most people can stop at, and that's stimulated by cannabis, MDMA, and low doses of LSD, according to this theory. Then a higher level is the meta programming circuit, where you get to a level where you realize you're taking a perspective and you can choose to take a different perspective.
Oh.
Okay, so you're a consciousness observing consciousness. I'm conscious, I know what consciousness is, and I'm going to work on my consciousness and take this different perspective. And at that level, you're obviously starting to work your way up to higher levels of consciousness. And he says LSD, mescaline, psilocybin, and dimethyltryptamine associated with that level. And then the next high level is psilocybin, LSD, DMT, and then the final top level of consciousness, dimethyltryptamine, and that's by the way, is the non-local quantum circuit. So you've got quantum, this is quantum physics coming into consciousness. Dimethyltryptamine and ketamine, would you believe? So he presents Leary's original model using different terminology, and I think he as an audio session, far better. But he's Leary's fundamentally. And so, again, Robert Anton Wilson is for anyone taking psychedelics, I think is a really good area to look at, particular talk. And he's probably got it in his books. And I've got his books, and I've sort of not really properly read. I've got one of his books anyway. I've probably read it, and I will do. So I've got the Robert Anton Wilson, definitely an area to look at and a guy to sort of explore and look into. I've got Terence McKenna, Robert Anton Wilson, quantum physics. 3 areas that you're going to likely find to be interesting if you're exploring, if you're a psychonaut wanting to explore what's going on and what is reality. Next one I've got morphic resonance. Have you heard of morphic resonance? You haven't? Oh, good. So I can assume everybody's starting at the same level. Now, the problem with this is that you can't help me out when I make a bumbling fool of myself and I fail to explain it. This is from Terence McKenna's mate. I think he was a British psychiatrist, some sort of scientist anyway, I can't remember, but Dr. Rupert Sheldrake. And he came up and he went to America and met McKenna. And I think part because there was affinity with what Rupert Sheldrake was talking about with this morphic resonance. Well, he said, I'll read, this is the wrong quote, I'll try to shortcut it, but I'll just read what it says. Morphic resonance is a process whereby self-organizing systems inherit a memory from previous similar systems. Now, think about that. What's he saying? A process whereby self-organizing systems inherit a memory from previous similar systems. Now, let me throw in examples that he normally gives here. This has been tested, by the way. It's not sort of random rambling. If you teach mice or rats in a lab, you've heard this.
I have epigenetic imprinting.
Somewhere in the UK, and you have a large population. You teach them a new trick. Then a large population of rats in a laboratory in San Francisco will learn it faster. And then a large population in Brisbane in Australia will learn it faster still. So there's this sort of pattern recognition in the sort of collective consciousness.
Oh, no, I haven't heard of this one. Yeah, never mind. I thought I had. Never mind.
Okay. Right, okay. Now, it says in most general formulation, morphic resonance means that the so-called laws of nature are like habits. Now you understand where McKenna comes in. Novelty versus habit. So these are habits, right? The hypothesis of morphic resonance also leads to a radically new interpretation of memory storage in the brain and a biological inheritance. Back to this question of where is memory, because I think a lot of people, a lot of scientists even, are now saying it's not stored in the brain because you can chop out every part of the brain individually and the memory doesn't go. So where is this? It says memory need not be stored in material traces inside brains, which are more like TV receivers than video recorders, tuning into influences from the past. And biological inheritance need not all be coded in genes or in epigenetic modifications of the genes. Much of it depends upon, I'm struggling to read this. Why don't I make the letters bigger? and I can read it more easily. Here we go. This is better. And biological inheritance need not be all coding genes or in epigenetic modifications of the genes. Much of it depends on morphic resonance from previous members of the species. Thus, each individual inherits a collective memory from past members of the species and also contributes to the collective memory affecting other members of the species of the future. Now, what he's basically saying is that this rat experiment applies to memory. Cites other examples like crystals. The first time scientists create a crystal, they can do it more quickly later on if when it's repeated, even if they've got no knowledge of the existence of that crystal in the first place. What I wrote after this was this becomes particularly relevant when developed alongside other theories and ideas. One example, given that optical illusions demonstrate a form of pattern recognition. Right, okay. I'm going into something else there, applying this to memory. Oh, yeah, that's my theory. I added my little theory to the end of that. But, yeah, so what Sheldrake's saying is that there is a collective memory and a collective consciousness and a collective of basic everything. And it's all to do with pattern recognition of self-organizing systems, and he cites a lot of really, really credible examples of how it works, and for which there are no other explanations.
Yeah. Is it something like the Akashic Records?
Sorry?
Is it something like the Akashic Records?
The what records? Explain that to me.
Akashic. It's kind of what you're talking about. It's the idea that all knowledge that will ever exist already exists, and it's almost like a radio tower, and what we are all receivers, and some of us are grabbing onto different, but like, you know, it's just a matter of it's almost like it's never invented so much as we like discover it. So like 10,000 years ago they were just tuning into how to build pyramids and wheels.
It sort of is. There's obviously commonality with that in that he's suggesting that your memory isn't exclusively coded into your brain, into the proteins or whatever is being suggested. He's saying that, well, it's not like that. It is a receiver, and that's the only explanation for a lot of issues, and you know, I'm not doing justice to him here at all, because it's hard stuff to explain without a sort of fly off a few words, but as a sort of food for psychedelic thought, this is definitely an area to look at as the others are. Because he explains it. I mean, materialist scientists are hating the guy. Yeah. You know, because he's basically saying, you know, you've got so much of this wrong, and you've got closed minds, you're not willing to sort of open them and actually entertain any of this. And he has a point, and they don't like that. And he knows they don't like that. So, you know, you know, I think he co-authored a book with McKenna.
With Terence McKenna?
Yes.
Oh.
It was one of these trilogues. I think there was Ralph Abrams, Terence McKenna, and Rupert Sheldrake. I've got it somewhere in these piles of books that I should read more often. So he did. So, you know, and people who are familiar with Terence McKenna may well be well aware of it, but or may might not be. But definitely this theory of morphic resonance. You know, not just because of the memory, the TV receiver type, but which I think quite a few people actually, other people suggest that. But because of the way he's suggesting that there's a sort of transference of knowledge and memory between yourself as an individual and the collective, based upon habit versus novelty, And you can see the obvious interaction with a lot of what McKenna's talking about with novelty versus habit, and this contradiction and constant battle between the two, which he spends a lot of time talking about in his YouTube lectures. So that's another guy, Rupert Sheldrake, morphic resonance, that I feel is definitely food for the psychedelic mind. The next guy I've got here is Dr. John Hagelin. He's an eminent scientist, and his area is quantum mechanics again. There's not much I'm going to say about John apart from the fact that he explains quantum physics supremely well.
Okay.
And when I was trying to actually all right, well, explain to me, you've got sort of molecules, atoms, and then you've got electrons, and then what's beneath that again? I don't understand this, and what's this Planck stuff that you're talking about down here? It's very confusing if you haven't got any sort of formal education in this area. But his talks on this are for such a clever guy, are really, really easy to understand, and he's really patient.
Yeah.
Which helps a great deal.
Yeah.
So I give a name call out for Dr. John Hagelin, Hagelin. It's in the book.
Yeah.
Page 471.
Shout out.
So definitely worth finding his stuff. I've got a one paragraph on Dennis McKenna for one quote. Just for one quote. This is the quote that I included him because I wanted to say this somewhere in the book, and this is a good place to see it. To say it was all experience. I can't pretend to his accent, so I want to stop now. All experience is a drug experience, whether it's medicated by our own drugs, endogenous drugs, or whether it's medicated by substances that we ingest that we found in plants. Cognition, consciousness, and the working of the brain is all a chemically mediated process. Life itself is a drug experience. So I read that really badly, but what he's basically saying is we're running on serotonin and dopamine. You swap out the serotonin for DMT, and you're going to have a completely different experience. But so basically, we are a drug experience.
Yeah, you smile, you laugh more. Someone opens the door real quick, and adrenaline spike. All of a sudden, your experience is different. But it is. Everything is a drug experience. You work out, you get an endorphin rush.
I'm experiencing now, I'm on a drug.
Yeah.
It's just space serotonin and various hormones and all the stuff that's flowing around me. That's the drug I'm on at the moment.
Yeah.
But I can change that.
Yeah.
And have a different experience. No less valid.
Yeah.
Just because this one is the drug experience that everybody else is usually on, it's accepted as the drug experience they've got to be on this drug. If you'll take Dennis McKenna's perspective there, then why is that more valid? Just because you're all doing it, I'll have this experience, and that's equally valid. It's as valid as your experience. It's fair enough. I think that's a valid point. The next one's really tricky and I'm going to make a complete mess of this, but I'm going to give it a go because I think it's interesting, and I was surprised when I saw this was still on the CIA's website. Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you'd raise your eyes at that one. So on page 472. I'm finding it here and I can show you a picture.
Okay.
So let's just map on page 472 there. This one. Okay. Right. Oh, jeez. I'm going to explain this without
who cares? Just jump in. Who cares?
Okay. There's your brain waves.
Okay.
You see, going up and down in waves.
Mm-hmm.
You see them?
Yep.
Right, this is what the CIA did. They had a project. They just want to weaponize everything.
Yeah, they're fucking crazy. Yeah,
They had a project, right? And in this report, because it's on their website, and I can't remember. I've got a link which I can provide. They say these are all their words. I'm not making any of this up. Can you see me all right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. This is an aspect of quantum mechanics which applies to the fact that any oscillating frequency, such as a brainwave, reaches 2 points of complete rest, which constitute the boundaries of each individual oscillation. Now, that's stating the obvious. If you've got a wave like that, at some point they stop because they've got to change direction.
Okay.
So just for an infinitesimal period of time,
it has to. Okay.
they're stopped. Because they've got to. That's the nature of changing direction.
It's like throwing a ball in the air. It's
that's what they're saying. Without these points of rest, an oscillating wave pattern would be impossible, since the points of rest are required to permit the energy to change direction and thus continue vibrating between rigid limits. Just what we just said.
Yeah.
But it is also true that when, for an infinitesimally brief instant, that energy reaches one of its 2 points of rest, it clicks out of time-space and joins infinity.
Okay.
This is the CIA.
Yeah, no, I know.
This is why you're sort of thinking, okay. That critical step out of time space occurs when the speed of the oscillation drops below 10 to the minus 33 centimeters per second, Planck's distance. So it's going into quantum mechanics there. So it's saying,
Planck's distance.
So it stops when you're at that speed.
Yeah.
To use the words of Bentov, I don't think Bentov is 11. Quantum mechanics tell us that when distances go below Planck's distance, which 33 cm, we enter, in effect, a new world.
Okay.
So you're entering, so at this point I'm thinking, why is this meditation when you're trying to get to this point?
Slow.
Yeah, so they're saying, okay, so you stop there and you enter, you click out of time-space.
Okay.
At this point in your sort of brainwave. To return to our case in point, the human consciousness wave pattern reaches such high frequency that the pattern click outs come so close together that there is virtual continuity in it. Okay. So if you're going it's the click outs
perceive it as normal
together.
Yeah.
Okay. Then a portion of that consciousness is actually postulated to establish and maintain its information collection function in those why am I reading it like a child? It's because there's only so many words on each line. Yeah. Then a portion of that consciousness is actually postulated to establish and maintain its information collection function in those dimensions located between time-space and the absolute. So at that point in time where all these clicks come together, consciousness is outside this dimension. It's between time-space and absolute. Thus, as the Alra-Host, there are words I'm not saying, Alra-Host continuous click-out pattern establishes itself in continuous phase at speeds below Planck's distance, but before reaching the state of total rest. Human consciousness passes through the looking glass of time-space after the fashion of Alice beginning her journey into Wonderland. So he's saying when it gets close to this static point, you go into another world.
And it gets a little.
The gateway experience with its associated hemi-sync technique is apparently designed if used systematically and patiently to enable human consciousness to establish a coherent pattern of perception in those dimensions where speeds below Planck's distance apply. So he's saying consciousness can basically be coherent in this sort of outside time space. This holds true irrespective of whether the individual is exercising his consciousness while in his physical body or whether he is doing so after having separated that consciousness from the physical body, the so-called out-of-body state of mind referred to earlier. Okay, so what we're basically talking about here is basically psychedelic experiences.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Out-of-body experiences, consciousness outside the sort of linear thought pattern of normal,
deep meditation.
Everything that we've been talking about, they're basically, this paper is basically accepting that.
Yeah, I found. I was gonna say in I've been meditating since 2008, and I would say I've probably had out of the thousands of times I've meditated, I'd say I've had probably like 5 or 10 truly psychedelic experiences from meditation that were crazier than any psychedelic experience I've ever had. And how it always starts is I'll be meditating for an hour, 2 hours, and my rate of breathing will slow down so much, and I'll feel like muscles relax that I didn't know were even tense, and your whole body starts to slow down, and it is like you're almost like going through the eye of a needle. It slows down, it slows down, it slows down, and then it stops, and it's just infinite. It's an indescribable. It's easier to describe LSD than it is to describe this. It is infinite. It is maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the fifth dimension, the eighth dimension.
According to this paper from the CIA, that's real.
Yeah.
You're not imagining any of that.
Yeah.
And there's a whole, I've just read one paragraph out of this thing. I've got the link to the PDF.
Okay. I'll put it in the video.
In the book. I can copy paste that for you, and you can actually put it underneath the video.
I will.
But I thought put that in here because again, it's something that food for the psychedelic mind to explore to reach its own conclusions. Now, the next one is the Dalai Lama.
Okay.
Because of course, going directly linking to the CIA paper and meditation, this is what monks do. They meditate to seek enlightenment. Mm-hmm. And I've got a quote from the Dalai Lama, which it seems true. And he says, broadly speaking, although there are some differences, I think Buddhist philosophy and quantum mechanics can shake hands on their view of the world.
Absolutely.
So, that's it's an area to explore for the psychedelic mind. It's food for the psychedelic mind, and there's more to Buddhism than if you've not actually looked at it.
Yeah.
Or in any way, is more to Buddhism than you would imagine.
It's
because it's all about raising consciousness and through meditation,
and leaving all this behind. You
back
right. out. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like getting out of a car. I think that's what Richard Alpert Ram Dass said. He was like, imagine if you spent your whole life driving around a car. You would think that you're a car. You would you'd be like, I have to be on the road. I have to go to the gas station. You'd look out at like fields and be like, or, you look at a tree and be like, man, I wish I could climb that tree, but I'm a car. And then one day you meditate and you notice the handle and you pull the handle and you step outside. You go, oh my God, I'm not a car. I was in a car. That's what this is like. You back out of it. It's like a suit, like a hazmat suit. You take it off and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm not that. And it's indescribable. It's the divine. That's what I mean. That has to be what heaven is it's you're untethered, you're infinite, and it's just it's a drop in you're like a drop of water landing in the ocean. You're no longer a drop of water. Where does it end and where's the ocean? It's just infinity. And I love it and I hate it because when you're there, for me, I can only stay for a couple seconds, and then I fall out. I fall out of it. And I want to go back. And
that's why I couldn't. I don't have the patience to meditate. I'm too lazy. I can't think. I'd be so frustrated with it.
Yeah, and I've only been in that spot maybe 5 times. And I've meditated thousands of times. I haven't been there in years, and it's. Always think about it like, if I could just go back. That's what has to be heaven. That's nirvana. It's dissolution of reality.
What I'm looking at is monks do this, and I was just going to throw in a reference to the drinking of green tea.
Okay.
As they drink green tea because there's a chemical in that L-theanine, an entropic, which helps calm the mind and is conducive to meditation. So it's not an accident that people drink green tea who meditate. There's actually logic to it, because it's one of the things I've got in the book as a psychoactive to look at. But yeah, so Buddhism, there's definitely more there than you might imagine. And it's not a sort of, anyone who's got no idea of what it's not a deity type leap of faith. You must believe in this type. No, it's more a philosophy.
You experience it. There's no
more philosophy than religion.
Yeah, it's not like, trust me, this is what it is. It's, you go experience it for yourself. It's like what
we
always
say. Don't believe what I say.
Exactly.
Measure your experience against it. That's exactly what Buddha said.
That's Buddhist. Yeah,
don't believe anything I say. Test your own experience.
Yeah, if it doesn't align with your own experiences,
and that to me gives it more credibility.
Exactly. The fact that it's not trying to sell it. It's like you and I. It's like you and I. We don't have any stake in LSD. It's not like we're pitching LSD. Like, go try it. It's, don't take our words for it. Go try it. And maybe you'll have a completely unique experience. Come back and tell me. There's no this is what you believe and this is what you feel. No, let's go do it. It's you're jumping into infinity.
I mean, it is. One of the things psychedelic teaches you is that don't believe, just use your own judgment, your own mind, and find your own position and perspective.
Yeah, well said.
On the same lines, the next one is samadhi. There's a video on YouTube. Part one's called Maya, the Illusion of Self. And I just put that in there because I think it lasts about an hour and a half. It's one of the best visual representations I've seen that explains that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them, or above them. That's who you are, and those are just words, but it sort of presents that in a different way, which I really enjoyed watching. So SAMADHI, and if you search YouTube, you'll find it pretty quickly, and it's out there.
Yeah, it's. I've heard of samadhi, and Richard Alpert Ram Dass, rest in peace, he used to say, he said, the seer is not what is seen. If you can observe it, it's not you. And another one was, you are not the voice in your head. You're listening to the voice in your head.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, to people who've never sort of explored this area at all, this can usually can often come across as these, there's something wrong with this guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah. If you haven't done it. Yeah.
And that's why I like the films like this, because they present it far more impressively than is possible just through talking about it. And it's, that's why I said, well, go and have a look at that, and go and have because then you get a proper feel for what I'm saying. For instance, I could talk for ages on samadhi, but the viewer of this podcast won't get 1% of what they would get from spending the same time watching the video.
Yeah.
So that's why these are just sort of starting points, really.
Yeah.
And that's it in terms of the sort of fragments of food. But after the last word, I say, as fascinating as all this is, don't spend all your trip time engrossed in it. If you're able to go outside safely and integrate with nature, do so.
Yeah.
So I'm saying is, I've quite often I've sort of started looking at something in this area.
Yeah.
I've been sort of completely blown away, and before I know it,
the trip's
I'm
over.
coming down from trips home. Why didn't I go and sit in the sort of the garden or so try and not get too sort of obsessed with it whilst you're on a trip.
Exactly. It's
but do it. Do spend some time, I think, sort of asking these questions. And all I've tried to do here is give some start points and some areas that you might pick and look at, that you might not otherwise have encountered, and they might be of some use to you in terms of your own exploration and finding out where you are and who you are.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like what McKenna said. Like, you can like read about sex all you want, but if you never have sex, you never know what it's all about. It's like you can read, like, these are great things to pull you into the idea of psychedelics, but you can read a million books. It's not going to be the same as eating some mushrooms and sitting in a field of grass and looking at a tree on a sunny day. Yeah. Like it's important. You got to do the sort of dive into it, but also don't forget, if you're going to take it, maybe once take LSD and look into all this stuff, and the next time you take it and just go sit in a chair on a sunny day and just watch the clouds. You'll almost reach the same conclusions.
Well, I think it's, he's doing both. I mean, this is just theory unless you've experienced the sort of psychedelic experience in reality.
Yeah.
This is all theory, and it's very, very interesting. But once if you can spend a little time just in wonder. Oh wow! I was so wrong. I'm not a narrative of a linear narrative of thought at all.
Yeah.
Get that.
Yeah.
And once you've established that, and you've sort of a bit of experience there, then sort of look into some of these areas that are absolutely fascinating, or they will be fascinating to you. And once you've done that, I believe that's the case. Yeah. And as what I've tried to do here is just give some ideas for exploration and
some food for
investigation.
Thought. Some food for thought, yeah.
Food for the psychedelic man.
Exactly. All right, man. Well, we're coming up. We're over an hour, so I'll let you go. But let's definitely do another one. I'll message you on Reddit. Let's definitely do another one, and we can plan what topic that will be. As always, Dominic, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. It's nice talking to someone else that makes me feel less crazy, and on the other hand makes me go, or maybe he's just as crazy as me. But either way, I don't feel so alone. So it's like, okay, maybe everyone else is crazy, or maybe we're both crazy. But whatever, it's good to have a friend.
Absolutely.
All right, Dominic, take care.
All right, good night.
I'll see you next time. All right.
Yeah, see you. Bye.
Bye-bye.